Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling a big one. It's one of the most powerful manuals on human interaction ever written.
Yeah.
Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
And this is such a necessary deep dive, because this book, it's been a bestseller for decades, but it's often misunderstood.
Right.
Our mission here isn't just to summarize it. We're here to pull out the principles that still work today for leading a team, for making a sale, even just getting through a family dinner.
So this is about decoding the real science of connection, not just like superficial charm.
Exactly. It's not about manipulation, it's about understanding.
And we should mention, our source material really focused on the audiobook experience. And for a book about communication, that feels, well, important.
It really does. The narration, it's so clear and warm. It feels like you're listening to a mentor, It makes these ideas, which could be surprisingly difficult, feel easy to absorb. Great for a walk or a commute.
Yeah, that makes sense, because the ideas themselves sound simple, but living them is another story.
That's the whole point. The value isn't in knowing it, it's in the application.
Okay, let's unpack this. So for someone coming to this book for the first time, or maybe coming back to it, what's the core engine driving all of Carnegie's advice?
It all boils down to one thing: understanding fundamental human needs. We think communication is about sending information.
Right, getting my point across.
But Carnegie teaches us it's actually about validating the other person. The big themes are, making people like you, influencing them without forcing them, and handling conflict. But underneath all of that is this one universal craving.
The desire to feel important.
The desire to feel important, that's it.
It's just wild that a book from 1936 is still so relevant. I mean, our culture, our technology, everything's changed. Why does it still work?
Well, what's fascinating is that this book is basically the world's first, mainstream guide to emotional intelligence, EQ, long before anyone was even using that term.
So he was way ahead of his time.
Decades ahead. He's talking about self-awareness, social skills, but in these really practical, almost rule-based ways. The second you start using a material, you realize it's not teaching you tricks, it's teaching you empathy.
And that empathy connects directly to satisfying that need for appreciation you mentioned.
Exactly. Today we talk about EQ components like self-regulation, motivation. Carnegie just gives you the simple, actionable rules for the social skill part. He says genuine appreciation, and he's very clear, not flattery, but sincere recognition is the most powerful tool you have.
If you satisfy that craving honestly, you build trust.
Instantly.
Okay, that sets us up perfectly for the next section, which I think is so important for anyone in, a high-pressure job. The art of avoiding friction. The book, kind of paradoxically, starts by telling you what you absolutely should not do.
Yes, the anti-conflict stance is critical. And it all begins with rule number 1. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
Which is most people's default setting when something goes wrong.
It absolutely is. Because, criticism feels like you're taking control, like you're being direct and fixing the problem.
No, it doesn't work. Why does it fail so often?
Because it's a direct attack on the ego. The moment you criticize someone, they stop listening.
They just get defensive.
Completely. They start building a case in their head to protect their self-worth. It might make the person criticizing feel better for a second, but for long-term influence, it's poison. Carnegie's whole point is that understanding creates connection. Criticism just creates resentment.
Okay, but here's the practical problem, especially for managers. If you can't criticize, how do you give negative feedback? How do you fix a real performance issue? Isn't it sometimes necessary?
That is the number one question people have, and it's a critical distinction. Carnegie isn't saying you should ignore bad performance. He's saying avoid criticism.
So what's the difference?
It's all in the framing. Instead of saying your report was late and full of errors, you focus on the person's potential and the path forward. You might say something like, look, I know you're capable of incredible work. Let's talk about the time management on this one so the next report really shows off what you can do.
So you're correcting the behavior without condemning the person.
Exactly. You shift the focus from blame to future success.
Okay, and the second big don't is about conflict itself. Avoid arguments.
At all costs. This is another one that goes against our instincts. We love being right. We love to win the debate.
But the book is pretty brutal about this.
It's brutally realistic. You can win an argument, you can feel smarter in that moment, but if your goal is cooperation, if you need that person on your team tomorrow, arguing is always a loss.
This brings us to that famous quote that just perfectly explains why.
Yes. A person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. Winning the debate doesn't change their mind. It just forces them to retreat and hold on to their opinion even tighter.
And it damages the relationship.
It destroys the goodwill. The expert negotiator, the expert leader, is the one who finds a way around the argument, even when they know they're right.
So we know what not to do. No criticizing, no arguing. Now we get to the fun part. What are the simple things we can start doing today to build that instant rapport?
These are the low-hanging fruit, the small, consistent things that make people feel seen. Let's start with the absolute simplest one, smile.
It sounds so simple. It's almost a cliche, but the effect is real, isn't it?
It's physiological. A real smile is contagious. It signals warmth and safety. It just changes the entire emotional weather of a conversation before a single word is spoken. Especially now, on video calls, a smile is your first and best investment.
All right, number 2 is about personalization.
Use people's names. Carnegie calls a person's name the sweetest sound in any language. Just think about it. When someone you respect remembers and uses your name,
You feel seen. You feel respected.
it shows they're paying attention. It takes effort, and that's why it's so valuable.
And then circling back to that core philosophy,
Give honest and sincere appreciation. Notice the small things. Acknowledge effort, not just the final result. If a teammate puts in extra hours, you see it and you say it.
and be specific, not just good job.
Oh, specificity is key. Good job is fine, but the way you visualized the data on slide 3 made the whole argument click. That was brilliant. That proves you were actually paying attention. That's sincerity.
Okay, but I think the biggest shift the book asks for, and maybe the hardest for, ambitious people, is moving the focus completely off yourself. It's about listening.
This is the secret weapon. This is what truly makes people like you. Become genuinely interested in other people, ask questions, and then actually listen to the answers. The ratio should be something like 80% listening, 20% talking.
And why does that work so well?
Because people love to talk about themselves, their passions, their problems, their kids. It's their favorite subject.
And being a good listener isn't just about being quiet, right? It's an active process.
It's totally active. It's about engagement. On a call, it's making eye contact with the camera. It's nodding. It's those little verbal cues like, I see, or that makes sense.
Asking follow-up questions.
Yes, questions that show you're not just hearing the words, you're tracking the story. If you can make someone feel heard, you become instantly, effortlessly likable.
There's that one quote that just nails the return on investment for this.
It's the perfect summary. You can make more friends in 2 months by being interested in other people than you can in 2 years trying to get people interested in you. It just completely flips the script on how we think about networking. Stop performing, start listening.
Okay, so once you've built that foundation of trust and rapport, we get to the advanced stuff in section 4, winning cooperation. How do you actually influence people's ideas without being cushy?
Well, if you connect it all together, successful influence is really about giving other people a sense of agency.
Agency, meaning you give them ownership.
You give them ownership of the solution, even if you planted the idea. That way, you avoid all the natural resistance that comes from being told what to do.
So what are some of the tactics for this kind of gentle guidance?
I think there are 3 big ones, and the first one starts with humility. You have to admit your own mistakes quickly and emphatically.
Why is that so powerful for a leader? It seems counterintuitive.
Because it immediately disarms everyone. When you say, I screwed this up, you show you're human. You preempt their criticism and you earn their respect. It makes them so much more open to what you have to say next.
Yeah, a leader who can't admit they're wrong loses credibility so fast.
Instantly. Okay, the second tactic is, this is the golden rule of persuasion.
Talk in terms of the other person's interests.
100%. You have to frame what you need in terms of what they want. So say you need someone to take on a really tough project. You don't say, I need you to do this because I'm swamped.
You'd say something like,
You'd say, Sarah, this project has huge visibility with senior leadership, and your specific skill in data analysis is exactly what's needed to make it a success. This is a huge opportunity for you.
you're changing it from a burden into an opportunity that's tailored for them.
Exactly. And the third technique, which is probably the most skillful, is to let the other person feel the idea is theirs.
Ah, the inception method.
Pretty much. You don't give them the answer. You guide them with questions. What are our options here? What if we tried something like this? You let them connect the dots until they articulate the solution you are hoping for.
Because people will fight for an idea they feel they came up with.
People support what they help create. It builds real buy-in, not just compliance. It's all summed up in that other great quote from the book.
The one about the beehive.
If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive. It's about building relationships for the long run, not just winning today's battle.
Okay, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. This book is from 1936. So the big question is, does a guide to human interaction from, nearly a century ago actually hold up in our world of Slack and email and remote work?
It's a completely valid question. I mean, the world is a different place. But the consensus is that the core principles are timeless because, well, human nature hasn't really changed.
Okay, so let's break down the strengths first and then maybe get into the challenges.
The strengths are obvious. First, it's incredibly practical. Every rule has a story, a real example from history that makes it stick in your brain. And second, the advice itself about wanting recognition, feeling criticism, that's universal. It works for family, it works for business.
But the context, I mean, some of the anecdotes are definitely a bit old-fashioned.
Oh, for sure. Some of the scenarios feel dated. But the real limitation, I think, is figuring out how to apply these rules in a digital world.
Right. How do you smile in an email?
Exactly. You can't. So you have to translate the principle. The principle is convey warmth. So in a text or a Slack message, that might mean using more expressive language, maybe an emoji if it's appropriate, or just being really specific and quick with your praise. You have to work harder to project that warmth without the nonverbal cues.
And what about the manipulation problem? People can smell it a mile away when someone's being fake.
That is the most important warning. If you try to use these as just a checklist of tricks, remember their name, give a compliment, then ask for what you want, people will see right through it.
It just feels slimy.
It feels like manipulation because it is. Carnegie says over and over the appreciation has to be honest. The interest has to be sincere. You actually have to care, even a little bit, about the other person. Otherwise, you're not building influence, you're just building a facade.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? Why should this be on your reading list?
Because it's a direct upgrade to your most fundamental life skills. Your communication, your social intelligence, your EQ, it improves them all. If your job depends on relationships, and almost every job does, this is essential. Managers, salespeople, people looking for jobs. Anyone who wants less friction and more connection.
It's really a foundational text for anyone who has to interact with other human beings.
It is. I mean, if you seriously apply just 5 of these ideas consistently, your relationships at work, your confidence, your influence, it will all dramatically improve. The magic isn't in the principles, it's in the practice.
We've unpacked 10 core concepts, all rooted in that simple idea of appreciating others. Your provocative thought for the week is this. Think about the person in your professional life where you have the most friction. It might be small, but it's consistent. Which single technique, just one, can you commit to for the next 72 hours? Maybe it's refraining from any criticism, or maybe it's committing to 2 minutes of genuine, focused listening in your next conversation.
Pick one, apply it, and just observe. Just see what happens to the dynamic when you shift the focus entirely onto them.
Thank you for joining this deep dive into mastering human behavior. We'll catch you next time.